Hello everyone. It has been a minute since I sat here and talked to you guys about makeup. Listen, you don't have to lie. I know you gave up on me and it's okay. I had my doubts myself. And yet here we are in 2026 and I'm here to talk to you about makeup again. I don't know about the rest of you, but 2025 was peak chaos for me. It was a wild year. So I kind of wanted to sit down and talk to you a little bit about what my beauty goals are for 2026 and what I'm hoping to achieve, not just with my channel, but also with my collection and this hobby that I enjoy so much, that is makeup. So the first thing I want to talk about a little bit is the fact that I think I'm ready to start paring down my collection. You saw that a little bit in my declutter at the beginning of 2025. I know the end of the year is usually a declutter season for beauty content on YouTube, but I prefer to do it at the beginning of the year because November and December are so demanding for me in terms of my work and my family obligations that January is just a much better time for me to commit to something that is that time intensive, as a declutter and inventory series. So I will be starting that this month. I will go ahead and link my previous 2 years of inventories and declutters in the description box below. The first one is purely an inventory. I did no decluttering. So it wasn't until last year that I actually started decluttering some of my collection. I've always said that I'm somebody that really craves novelty in my use of makeup, and that is true. And I'm going to have to find a way to balance that with the fact that I want to focus my collection more on the things that I'm really enjoying. While I like the idea of having all of these options, to be perfectly honest, there's a much smaller group of products that are really sparking joy for me on a regular basis. And a lot of the other stuff in my collection are there mostly to give me a sense of opportunity, of having more options, even though I'm not really reaching necessarily for those options when it comes to doing my makeup on the daily. So I was on a pretty successful low buy for all of 2024. 2025 was a different story. I was definitely not on a low buy, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the numbers on that. I'm not sure if another low buy is in my future. I think I'll probably have a better grasp on whether or not that's something I want to commit to after we're done with the inventory and declutter. So that will be coming up. I have been tracking my beauty expenditures over 2025, and I want to share the numbers with you on that. Something I have noticed that has been really helpful for me as I've been tracking my purchases. So I'm writing down everything that I buy, how much it costs, when I bought it, where I bought it. I have noticed that my greatest expenditures tend to line up with months that are particularly stressful for me. I think that's the reason why 2025 was definitely not a low buy year for me, was because of just the high sustained level of stress. So clearly there's some retail therapy going on, and I kind of need to re-examine how I'm approaching that, because I don't think that's the best way to be building a collection that really serves me. So in January of 2025, I spent a total of $79 on makeup. That was a pretty low spend for me, but I'm pretty sure it was following a month that I let loose a little bit. In February of 2025, I bought 3 things totaling $51. In March, my total was $48. In April was my 9th month of pregnancy. It was the month before I had my baby. And it wasn't just that it was a little stressful for me. I also was very much in the mood of, look at this really difficult but amazing thing that I am doing. I deserve to treat myself. That was very much my attitude in April. And because of that, I spent $171 on makeup in April. In May, that dropped down to $96. In June, it was $83. In July, reason has returned. It is down to $41. In August, I spent $27 on makeup. In September, I spent $0. No money was spent on makeup in September. In October, I spent $22. And then in November was a stressful month for me. Also, it is my birthday month. So historically, I have tended to give myself a little more permission to spend in November than I do in other months. However, I think this might be a record. In my defense, I had accumulated a number of Sephora gift cards that I burned through in November and in December. So it wasn't necessarily money out of my pocket, but I am still counting it as spend. I'm not distinguishing between money that's coming out of my own pocket and money that's being spent on a gift card. However, having those gift cards in hand definitely encouraged me to spend maybe a little bit more than I otherwise would have. So in November, I spent $252, and then in December, I spent $277 on makeup. My makeup spend for the year in total was $1,108, and that averages out to $92.33. Obviously, whether or not that sounds like a lot is going to be relative to you and your situation and what is commonplace for you. It doesn't seem maybe ridiculous for me. However, I have to take into account the fact that there were some months when I spent either nothing or next to nothing, and that is bringing down the average a bit for me. So I'm going to have to do a little thinking whether or not I want to do a low buy for all or part of this coming year, just based on what has come into my collection over the last year. My goal really is to be able to use and enjoy my makeup collection. I have no interest in having products sitting around that are unused or hardly ever touched. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in my inventory and declutter series. So going into 2026, there are a few things that I'm going to be keeping from the past 2 years that I have been doing YouTube, and a few things that I'm going to stop doing. I think one of the things that I have decided, I don't know if I'm going to stop doing it entirely. No, I am going to stop doing it entirely. I'm not going to be doing a Pan That palette this coming year. I have found that eyeshadows are one of the things that are the most difficult for me to pan because I have a very large eyeshadow collection, and it is so difficult for me to reach for one palette consistently enough to make real progress in that palette. It kind of sucks the joy out of makeup for me. I pretty much want to use a different palette every single day, and I have enough eyeshadow palettes at this point that I could do that and only use each palette a handful of times over the course of a year. So instead of participating in Pan That palette this year, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be introducing more eyeshadow palettes with usage goals into other projects. And I'm going to approach most of those in like a no pan left behind sort of style. So I can use a palette a few times and really get a feel for it and enjoy it and then move on. Because that's really what I'm craving when I'm doing my makeup on a day-to-day basis. The second thing I'm going to be doing, I really considered, for most of this last year, I was doing periodic empties. But I think I'm going to go back to doing either monthly empties, or I'm going to be doing the monthly roundup where I show you everything that I've finished as well as anything new coming into my collection. And I think I'm also going to start sharing with you guys some of the things that that maybe are not empty and are not new, but that I'm really enjoying. So I did these monthly roundups back in 2024. I don't feel like they get the most views necessarily, but I really enjoy filming them, and that's what this is for me. This is my hobby. YouTube is definitely not a career track for me. I already have my dream job, so I'm definitely not looking to like maximize my views here. I'm really looking to enjoy this as a hobby, and I really enjoy those roundup videos. So for 2026, life permitting, I will be trying to do those on more of a monthly basis. Right now, I am currently involved in 50 Shades of Black Project Pan as well as the Throwback 30 Project Pan. 50 Shades of Black ends in April, Throwback 30 ends in July, so I still have some months left on those two projects. I would like to continue doing deck of panning, but I think that might be where I stop. I am toying with the idea of bringing back the Lip Service Project Pan, because I have rediscovered, finally, I have rediscovered my love of lipstick, and I have acquired quite a few of them over the past several months. So I think it would be fun to roll those into a project and really play with and enjoy those. I'm not sure if I will continue with Throwback 30 or 50 Shades of Black after they conclude. We'll just have to see where I'm at and how I'm feeling about the time investment that is required to handle all of these projects. I am considering Lip Service and Turn and Burn, but again, that's really going to depend on whether or not 2026 is as brutal to me as last year was. So I'm really going into 2026 optimistically, but I don't necessarily want to commit myself to so many things that it becomes heavy. I want this. Again, this is my hobby. This is a pocket of joy I'm trying to preserve for myself, and I want to participate in things that are really going to move me in that direction with my content. So my makeup goals, I already talked a little bit about how I'm kind of wanting to identify that kind of nucleus of my makeup collection, which is that smaller group of products that's really bringing me a lot of joy. Again, we'll talk about that more as I'm doing my inventory and declutter series. I'm also really going to try to focus a lot more on body care this year. I feel like in general, I have my skincare in a good place and I generally feel well informed about skincare. I know what my skin responds well to. I know what products that I enjoy. However, body care is a place where I have always just really kind of struggled. And so that one of my goals this year is to pay attention a little bit more to that side of my routine and see how I can make it more enjoyable and work better for me. I am also going to be attempting to add more color into my everyday makeup routine. I feel like over the past couple of years, especially because these have been very high stress years for me, and I have done a lot of defaulting to my easy, foolproof products, that the looks that I've been going for have become tamer and tamer. And that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing at all. But I do get a lot of joy out of colorful makeup. And I also feel like, because I'm in my 40s now, I feel like there is that part of me in the back of my head that's saying, aren't you a little bit too old to be wearing blue eyeshadow? I hate that. I hate that that voice follows me around and says, isn't that eyeshadow a little too much? Isn't that a little bit too dramatic? I want to feel like I have the freedom to be too much. Now, of all times, when I feel the most self-actualized and secure in myself as a human being, this should be the time where I feel the freedom to do whatever I want with my makeup without that concern of, how is this framing me socially? Have I not spent enough of my life already to this point worrying about what other people are going to think about what I'm doing? I've spent enough time doing that and I don't want to do it anymore. So one of my goals going into 2026 is to reincorporate more color and feel more free to express myself in a more creative way through my makeup. So those are my makeup goals for 2026. It's a tiny little handful, but I definitely think it is enough to be going on with for now. I'm really trying to focus this year on carving out these little spots of joy for myself and preserving this hobby, which is something that I really do enjoy, that is just for me. And I think those things are really important to preserve, maybe even more important to preserve when you're going through it. Harder to, for sure, but possibly even more important. Thank you so much for spending this time with me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.